Hi guys, I want to introduce my currently nameless podcast as a series of conversations with interesting people that I know. My name's Lucas, and I've spent much of the last few years getting to know myself, reading many books on psychology and other disciplines, and finding myself wanting to have interesting discussions with those of a similar mindset. This is the first instance of me sharing one of these conversations, as I want to open a platform for discussion where people can exchange ideas and learn from one another. This first cast is a bit of a scattered mess, I'll be honest, but in the future I'll be concentrating on more episodic and structured podcasts that will stick more coherently to a specific theme. This is what we have in the meantime. I hope you enjoy. It's because this all sort of stemmed from my walk in the Czech Republic. I've seen you after that, haven't I?
Yeah.
So me and my friend Jakub, we were just sort of discussing this, and I was giving him an overview of this book.
Yeah.
And I was really just considering doing like essays on books, just sort of almost like a book review, but then just sort of giving my thoughts and just opening up for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought, who better to sort of do that with than you, because we can actually sort of talk about it straight away. Because I feel like you and I are very in line with specific things, but I almost just feel like you're that one step ahead.
Okay.
Which is really nice to just sort of discuss those things and just see what doors that opens up, I suppose. Because I've read this book a few years ago, and it was really helpful, really effective. I can't really remember much of what's in there, but just the fact that it's come from the 50s and people are already talking about this is scratching the surface of law of attraction as well, and just about the language that we speak, which is what we talked about last time as well, like trying to be just careful with the way that we describe ourselves and the way that we think about ourselves, because I feel like many of us are just conditioned to think a specific way, and if he's saying this 60, 70 years ago, I can only imagine how much more prominent those things are happening nowadays, especially with social media and things like that. And I feel like, especially with stuff like Instagram, it does look like a lot of people are, and as Max says it in the book, is like we are hypnotized. And I just find that really, really powerful. So just a quick overview of the book. I'm not sure if I've sort of explained this to you before. Psycho-Cybernetics. It was written by a plastic surgeon. So just a quick story about sort of how he sort of started this book. Whether this is the actual story in the book or not, I don't know. But he sort of he discusses. So he would do something like a nose job, right? For two different people, he would do the same procedure. So for patient A, they would come back 2 weeks later and be like, "Thank you so much, doctor. You've completely changed my life. I feel so confident. I feel like this is the person I've always meant to be. I got that job that I went for, just everything. Success is coming my way now. This is what I've always needed and I've always wanted." But then you'd have patient B come back and be like, "You've ruined my face," or, "You've not changed anything at all." And the doctor would sort of, get him photographs of before and after and be like, "Look, I can, this is the proof, like your face has changed." And they'll be like, "Any excuse, it's not changed enough, you've done it wrong, blah, 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 blah." And sort of, having experienced things like this several times with his patients, he started to realize it's got nothing to do with the physical world. It's much more our ideas of ourselves. And if plastic surgery has the key to sort of dehypnotize people in certain respects, then that's a powerful thing. But if it's also got the power to not do anything at all, then we've got to really start to look inside. So I'm just going to quickly read about where are we? Just the Inferiority Complex.
Do you want to do any formal introduction to this podcast?
But that's the kind of thing that we could do afterwards and put it before.
Oh,
you normally do introductions to podcasts, and then things will just sort of slip in. We can do that now anyway and just cut it.
I don't mind.
How do we introduce ourselves? I don't know what we're saying.
Maybe we won't know how to introduce ourselves until we've done the podcast and then we discover who we are.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I like that. That's a valid point. Yeah, because I don't, this is the first time I've done anything like this, so who am I? What are the things that I want to say about myself as an introduction on a podcast? That's curious in itself. What beliefs do I hold about me that I deem worthy for a listener to want to know?
Well, maybe it's worth talking about what has inspired you to record this podcast. I might close the window.
Yeah.
Like, seagulls are nice, but sirens and drills
No.
are not. Maybe I could get a recording of a seagull and just
Loop it. Oh dear. What has inspired me to record this? I love talking to people, first of all. I think that's the interesting thing, and I feel like we're mirrors for one another to discuss and grow. That's the most important thing, is about growth, I think. And coming away from a conversation having learned something new. And very rarely do I walk away from a conversation where I feel like I haven't done that. But then also I think, and you might find this yourself as well, with the spiritual journeys that we've gone on, both at a very tender age, it's a very lonely process doing that. And, you see many of these sort of self-help books, but they've just got a very particular face on the cover, and it just sort of seems to be this ethereal, easy process, and it's not. And there's so much darkness in that journey, and people don't really discuss that enough. And that's what I want to touch on. I want to show that life, for me anyway, is not just about love and life and happiness and all this stuff. It's just about challenging oneself and wanting to grow. And sometimes that requires you to go deeper inside and see things you don't necessarily want to see. And I don't feel like many books touching up on that. So I'm just wanting to read specific books, then talk about them with different people, and just get other people's opinions on them. Because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. And you won't find that out until you share things with other people. I feel like that's what this is about. But especially that idea of a lonely journey, especially living in a city as well, where just everyone is so busy with their lives. We've all got many friends, but trying to sit down and have a enlightening conversation is it's difficult, and sometimes you feel like people aren't quite on the same level as you.
Something that's really been coming into focus for me lately is that the kind of people that we are, and various other people like us who we may already have in our lives, I've got a few, one or two others, have to go our own way. And I've spent a lot of my life trying to fit into templates and realizing this doesn't really work for me. And I'm sure everybody does to some extent, but perhaps some people are more willing to compromise or whatever it is. And I'm feeling more and more that I'm being challenged to just completely write my own script and not try and adhere to, the way other people are doing it. And I'm finding it constantly that I don't feel at home in particular groups, particular professional forums, or whatever it is. But the more I follow my own curiosity, the more I am fulfilled. And I had a conversation with a friend I've known for some time who lives out in Virginia Beach the other day, and she's much younger than me, but somehow flatteringly I inspired her to the extent that she's pursued the stuff that she's doing, and she does all kinds of different things in the arts now by just following her curiosity, and it's just making it up as she goes along, and that's kind of more what I'm looking at doing now, is kind of like yes, still wanting to compose, but also wanting to be entrepreneurial, wanting to help people in a coaching, mentoring capacity, that kind of thing. And there's not a template that brings that together.
So how do you know you're doing the right things? Is there a particular feeling that is coming up, sort of saying you're on the right path?
Well,
and to add to that as well, like, how many paths are there?
There's lots of feelings you get that you're on the wrong path.
That's definite. Yeah.
And
I think that's a big problem. Is it's so much easier to know when you're doing things wrong
yes,
than when you're doing things right.
yeah,
And trying to hone in and sort of, it's almost like you're trying to develop a muscle, because we're always going again. Well, that's part of the sort of the city life as well. Is so many things feel wrong to human nature that we sort of, you can feel these things inside. And then this is why sometimes when people just go for a nice walk in the woods or something like that, they'll feel refreshed, but you don't know exactly what that is. You don't know whether it's just being in the trees. You don't know whether it's being away from other people. You don't know whether it's being away from technology. So it's hard to sort of distinguish when you're doing the right things for sort of inner harmony, I suppose.
There's a Steven Spielberg quote, maybe you know it, from a talk he was giving, where the thing that you're either meant to do or you're most called to do, it doesn't come to you screaming, it whispers. And the trouble is the whole world is shouting.
That's right.
You know, and especially in the age of Instagram and social media, there's so many more and varied models to follow. And if you don't have the sense of conviction within yourself, you fall victim to all of them, you know, which I have done for many years. And sometimes the bravest thing is to like stop doing anything. You know, when I've had that when I've been several times in my life where I feel like I'm pushing myself too hard in directions that feel wrong.
Right.
The bravest thing I've done is actually stop taking part
Right.
without any plan, you know, and obviously I built in caveats to that of do I have enough money and that kind of stuff, and I was kind of, you know, often borderline, you know, it's like I might have enough money, I'm not really sure, so it was always like uncomfortable to an extent. But yeah, that's sometimes if you're not receiving positive feedback of which direction to go in, the least you can do is wait and listen.
I guess there's two questions here. First of all, you've got sometimes things feel good to begin with, and they'll quickly change. I've had that happen several times. You think, this is the thing. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And then very quickly down the line, it turns out that wasn't the thing. And then you wonder if you're being drawn in just by sort of excitement and the idea of the idea, I think, more than anything. Wrong hole.
Let's go again.
Oh my goodness. So just the idea of things feeling good to begin with, and sort of just chasing that curiosity, because it's the fantasy we hold in our minds of what could be. That's what's exciting, and that's what people begin to follow. And as soon as you realise the reality of something is much harder work, it can put people off. And then I guess the other part of that, from what you were talking about, is when do we know to persevere when things don't feel right, just to break through? Because otherwise, and I've sort of fall victim to this a lot, I will step away from things, being like, this is too difficult. This is not right. Whereas really, that's just an excuse to not work hard.
Well, in my experience, the hardest work is doing work you don't want to do. And when it's work that you do want to do, you will work hard, but it will feel easy.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience?
Yeah.
So you might be tired at the end of the day. You know, you might be like, feel physically and mentally exhausted. But you won't go to bed feeling bitter or resentful or that kind of thing. It is a tough one working through things you don't want to do. So I'm, a project that I'm on at the moment, which I won't talk about in detail. But that feels hard, but I'm committed to it because I've made a commitment, and as a matter of integrity, and it's through the course of doing this project, which has been a long time, I've discovered I don't want to do it as much as I thought I did.
Okay, yeah.
So, but I've got a commitment to people that I'm involved with, and I want the best for them, best outcome for them. So, doing my best to fulfill it. So it's almost like karmic debt. So when the best explanations of karma that I've enjoyed is just these reverberations of past decisions, and you made the decision in the past under a certain set of circumstances, such as it could be an ego drive. This is going to be good for my career, good for my profile, or it could have come from a not entirely aligned place, as in this will get me lots of money and then I'll be able to do a bunch of things or whatever, but maybe you weren't clear about the purpose of that money or something like that.
Right.
So let's say you made that decision months, years ago, and you're a different person now. You're stuck in that position of, I've got to do the work, and it feels hard because it's no longer who you are. Whereas the stuff that's aligned with who you are should feel easier than that.
Yeah, I've I read something a few years ago which was really interesting. It just sort of says everything that you were has led you to where you are right now, but that's not who you are now. So you're making that decision about who you are now is just changing your future. So if you're unhappy with the things that are in your life right now, that's not a reflection of actually who you are. It's just simply a reflection of who you were.
Yes.
So no matter what, you're still chipping away.
Yeah.
And there's just some reassurance, I think, in something like that, being like, okay, I can take responsibility of my life. Yes, I've made some bad decisions, but the decisions I make now will be changing who I am in the future.
It's a phrase often said that if you want to know what you've been thinking about, look at your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't want to do that too much.
I'll just check in with the recording and then we can relax. I also
Yeah.
completely forgot to check that this was the right way around. It should have that's fine. Good. It sounded fine, so it's like, yeah, all right, cool. All looks good.
Nice. Where's my coffee? Strong coffee, bloody hell. What did you say?
Do you want more coffee?
No.
Is there any more? Or is that was
No, that was it. That was probably like a triple shot in there. Yeah. So I'll read this now.
Yeah.
Then we'll discuss, and then maybe we can talk about the sort of synchronicity, because I think that will fall into that. But the inferiority thing I find quite interesting. But it might be something, because you strike me as someone who may not feel too much about this, because I'm not one to compare myself, and I don't think you're one to compare yourself to others either. But maybe there many people do, so maybe I can sort of read this and then we can discuss why we don't do that, because I definitely don't do that, or maybe I do, but it's a fleeting moment, and I want to talk about how I rationalise that, and because it gives power to oneself, I think, in a good way. So, Maxwell Maltz says, you can cure your inferiority complex. At least 95% of people have their lives blighted by feelings of inferiority to some extent. And to millions, this same feeling of inferiority is a serious handicap to success and happiness. In one sense of the word, I'm going to skip that bit there. Feelings of inferiority originate not so much from facts or experiences, but our conclusions regarding facts and our evaluation of experiences. For example, the fact is I'm an inferior weightlifter, an inferior dancer. This does not, however, make me an inferior person. It all depends upon what and whose norms we measure ourselves by. It is not knowledge of actual inferiority in skill or knowledge which gives us an inferiority complex and interferes with our living. It is the feeling of inferiority that does this. And this feeling of inferiority comes about for just one reason. We judge ourselves and measure ourselves not against our own norm or par, but against some other individual's norm. When we do this, we always, without exception, come out second best. But because we think and believe and assume that we should measure up to some other person's norm, we feel miserable and second-rate and conclude that there is something wrong with us. The next logical conclusion in this cockeyed reasoning process is to conclude that we are not worthy, that we do not deserve success and happiness, and that it would be out of place for us to fully express our own abilities and talents, whatever they might be, without apology or without feeling guilty about it. All this comes about because we have allowed ourselves to be hypnotized by the entirely erroneous idea that I should be like so-and-so, or I should be like everybody else. The fallacy of the second idea can be readily seen through if analysed, for in truth there are no fixed standards common to everybody else. Everybody else is composed of individuals, no two of whom are alike. The person with an inferiority complex invariably compounds the error by striving for superiority. His feelings spring from the false premise that he is inferior. From this false premise, a whole structure of logical thought and feeling is built. If he feels bad because he is inferior, the cure is to make himself as good as everybody else, and the way to feel really good is to make himself superior. This striving for superiority gets him into more trouble, causes more frustration, and sometimes brings about a neurosis where none existed before. He becomes more miserable than ever, and the harder he tries, the more miserable he becomes. What do you think about that?
Many things. So I've had experience with that whole process, certainly. And yeah, the thing that was striking me earlier on that it went on to describe is to have any sense of inferiority is to assume that one is comparable to anybody else. So that's the sort of the false assumption that grounds the whole thing and traps you. Yeah, so that sense of if you're comparing yourself in any way, such as your achievements, so for example, something I used to do a lot is read people's biographies on Wikipedia, and then I'd see how old they were. I'd always see how old they were,
to see how much they'd done in their life.
How much they'd done by a certain point, and that would be, and it's funny to reflect on now because it's sort of so obviously a neurosis that I would fixate on that.
It's funny what people do in private, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
And that was just a habit that was built in that I would look at the timeline of what they'd achieved. So comparing yourself in terms of your successes, I suppose everything falls into that category, like, how much you've studied, if you're creative, how many things you have created by a certain point, how much you've sold, etc. And that, it's all false comparisons because everyone's playing a different set of cards.
Yeah. And I feel like if you're doing something like that, you're almost saying to yourself, the meaning of life is success. And this is how I deem success. And it's just interesting because it always seems to be for a short period of time. It's not sort of the overarching life goal. but we like to think we're in this race with other people at the same time too. That's not something I've done too much of. I seem to have a very strange thing that I will compare myself with other Pythons.
Right.
But that's definitely what I do. Because I feel very attached to my star sign, and I just wonder if other Pythons are the same, and I'd like to sort of find similarities. It's almost like this brotherhood I'm seeking.
I was going to suggest, is it more about similarities than differences?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not wanting to sort of see if I'm achieving more than others, but just it's something nice just knowing that there's others out there like me, similar, not exact, but but I think the idea of comparison and wanting, like, what is the intention of that comparison? Just to see, I've achieved more than that person. What is that ego stroking? What's that achieving? It's almost like it's an indicator that, you can sort of slow down a bit, take your foot off the gas. If you're beating someone, it's like, well, I'm ahead of everyone else. I can just sort of slow things down. Or you'll have the other competitive side of being like, well, no, I'm gonna make sure I'm better than everyone else.
It's a narrowing of perspective if you're comparing yourself to people. What you're doing. It's the same with expectations, really, of any kind. If you've got any kind of narrowing of expectation of the way things should be or the way you expect things to turn out, you're closing yourself off from all of the other possibilities. And so in comparisons to other people, if you're comparing yourself on how much money I'm making, or my position in a company or whatever it is, job title, just makes me realize how I don't exist in that world to be trying to grasp at the different things that one might compare themselves with. But if you're falling into the trap of doing comparisons on that basis, you are blinding yourself to all of the wonderful nuances of who you are, because you're saying what matters is money, size of the house, how many kids, and these are all very generic things. But it could be subtler than that, depending on what your interests are in industry.
I was going to say, it's just also degrading to other human beings as well. Even if you're comparing someone and thinking, okay, they are superior to me, you are, like you say, degrading them of their own nuances and their own hobbies and however it might be. But I think it's about just understanding sort of who we are and the decisions we make in specific moments as well. Like I was sort of saying earlier on with the story about the girl in the water, just there was a little bit of me that appreciated myself for having the concern. And moments like that are just... really enlightening, I suppose. Just sort of having my friend there not concerned and then me being concerned. I'm in the position where I sort of think, I would rather be me right now. And I respect this about myself, that this is how I'm reacting. Because, only in situations that sort of come up like that can you surprise yourself by your own reactions. And it's always a nice surprise when you react the way you think you might in that situation. I had an incident when I was in Indonesia, and I was again just so pleased with how I reacted. So I had a moped crash with my girlfriend at the time on the back, and it was raining. I just pulled the brakes a little bit too hard, and so it sort of the front wheel slipped underneath me. We both came flying off, but before I even hit the ground, I had turned to see if she was okay. And I remember just sort of, just smacking the ground on the side. My knees were just like bleeding and blood everywhere. And I was just straight up to just go grab her and make sure she was okay. But she was fine. It was me who was absolutely ruined, probably because I turned like midair. And afterwards I was just completely limping. I couldn't do anything at all. But it's just that moment of danger and... being able to surprise myself in that moment and think, okay, I did the right thing, I think, in sort of wanting to care about the people around me at that time as well, which was really nice. But I'm sure some people might have the opposite of that and like regrettably think, oh, you know, I was really only concerned about myself in that. I saw a video on Facebook the other day where there was this, I think it was a rhino was just sort of charging towards this family, and the parents ran off. Parents ran off as this leaving their 11-year-old daughter who got flung in the air.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was really serious. How long is that going to be haunting them for? Because that is not okay. That's not okay. And I can imagine they're having sleepless nights thinking about what they did.
And you saw a video, so it's on the
caught
internet.
On camera. Everyone knows this as well now.
Oh no.
Which just adds to it too. But yeah, you don't really know who you are until those circumstances force you to make a decision like that. And I'm glad to know I think I would make the right decision.
So I think the different examples, excluding the rhino one, the two examples you gave from your life are different. So the girl that was being pulled from the water, there wasn't the urgency. It didn't happen in the moment. It was somebody was already helping them, and they were screaming for help, and other people were sort of running around. So it wasn't your reflexes that were taking over. So in your second example, you could see how your reflexes were responding as a matter of habit to your values. So internally, your wiring is you value the people you care about to the extent that you're going to protect them straight away, and your reflex happens because it was probably only in hindsight that you reflected on it. You're like, that I'm so glad that it happened the way that it did. Probably wasn't you were in midair and it was like, I better turn because I really love this girl.
Just
or,
happened, yeah, absolutely.
So in the first example with the girl being pulled from the water, there was a bit more space there, and you were able to observe your empathy that was coming out. Now, if someone was stuck in an inferiority complex, their mind would go to what should I do?
Right.
It wouldn't be a state of natural reaction.
Right.
And if they were concerned with fitting in, they would be looking, what is everybody else doing?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and if the value of their ego was to appear masculine or to appear as the rescuer or superior or whatever it was, they would march out, along the crowd and make their presence known in some obnoxious kind of way, I guess. Right. So in an inferiority state, the ego kind of hijacks your natural self and says, how do I need to present here? And you had, in your example, you were able to just observe, how am I feeling? What's actually coming up?
Yeah, I suppose because I was distant from the crowd as well, so I could watch the crowd watch what was happening. I was sort of behind this barrier, just eating my meal. So yeah, I was like more of an observer, so I had that opportunity to sort of look within. And the reason why I didn't go and help is because I'm rubbish in water. They'd need to save me, and I realised this straight away. And as these people were running past, I thought, okay, these people know what they're doing. But yeah, I was just this overwhelming concern of just wanting her to be okay, and just hoping. It's almost just like that. It's in moments like that where you start believing in something higher. You do. And you start almost willing people to have the strength to help others. Now I found that's where my mind was going in that moment, was please have the strength to help this girl. So that sort of brings in God to that almost.
How does that bring in God? I didn't quite see that.
Really?
No.
I suppose if I feel like I'm willing someone to...
Yeah.
I would feel silly to think I can give them the strength with my mind.
So it's a hope that a higher power will intervene rather than a belief?
Yeah, it's definitely a hope rather than a belief that she will be okay, because there was no certainty in that situation. And I know God works in mysterious ways, and he's not going to go and help everyone. But I think just in that moment, it was a matter of, it wasn't even a hope that she was okay. It was more of a hope that they could help her, because they seemed desperate, and it's almost like they needed calming down. So, yeah, I feel like that's more what it was like for me, is just for them to have the strength to see it through what they needed to do. Because I feel like, in situations like that, it's not just the victim that needs support, but it's those that are trying to help. You know, they're going through something they don't experience very often, if at all. And this was the general public. It took a good 15 to 20 minutes for any kind of paramedic to arrive. And this is in the city centre. So it was all down to these people sort of bringing this girl out. There was just out of my view, so I don't know whether they were giving CPR or not. But yeah, these people looked very scared over there.
It's funny how there's nothing practical you can do, and yet you sort of forward an intention and a hope over to people that you're not even talking to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that there's no communication going on, but there's a desire inside that you sort of you're wishing for the outcome of that desire. It is quite. If one were to sort of pick that apart from a purely rational evolutionary point of view, I don't know how that would be presented exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Like, because of course you know, because it's like if we were entirely rational animals, you would look at that situation as like, well, there's nothing I can do. So, you know, what will be, you know, but to actually have a strong desire of, I really hope that it's, you know, the same that it's funny, the same that we root for football teams or whatever it is, like that sense of investment, even though we're completely detached from the situation.
But are we? Are we detached from the situation? We can rationalise it to say that we're not physically involved, but maybe that intention, you know, has that vibration to really support something. And that is something that I do definitely believe. You know, if we do believe in law of attraction and things like this, and we do believe the things that we think about do come about in some way, if I'm willing that goodwill, whatever it might be, then that is having a genuine impact. Whether I can see it or evidence it or not is irrelevant to me at that moment. I feel like it's doing something, and that's enough for me to do it. I would never rationalize it by saying, this is a waste of my time, I'm going to get back to my nice meal, because you've got the curiosity of what's happening. So you've got that sort of little bit of excitement there, being like, you don't see this every day, but then you've also got, there is something that I can do here. Although I can't be over there physically and help, maybe with my thoughts I can do something.
But you don't think that consciously, do you? You don't, that in the moment you're not thinking, right, what can I do? All right, I'll just hope. And
no, it happens naturally.
Yeah.
And it is just happening. But, you know, it goes on for quite a long time that you allow that rational thought process to almost catch up and be like, oh, actually, maybe I can really focus my mind here. Then maybe that's just the ego taking over. And I don't know what else to sort of say about that. It's interesting though, isn't it? But it felt like I was helping in some way. As ridiculous as that might sound. So I think being this is maybe this is why, you know, you've got if you talk about football, teams have a much better record at home. Is that because they've got a bigger crowd?
Well, I think undoubtedly there is, you know, in a plainly material way, there are expressions of energy which support people, and you know, it could be a simple matter of if you've got the bigger crowd, the greater volume, etc., etc.
Sorry, can I just interrupt here and say this is why I believe England don't and won't win a World Cup? is because the English fans are so angry
Right.
all the time. So if someone even just makes a bad pass, they're like, "Oh, you effing blinding idiot!" You've got anger there, and anger's not a positive energy, and it's almost like the England crowd expects England to lose, and so we do.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that. I thought that's brilliant. But if you go to a pub or anything like that, there's always this excitement to begin, but as soon as England play badly just for 2 or 3 minutes, the energy's gone. And I just find that fascinating. It's almost like the England fans don't deserve England to win.
It reminds me of the IT Crowd episode where they learn to talk football.
Vaguely.
So there's a postman that keeps visiting the office, and
I do remember.
Moss has like learned how to speak in terms that he can relate to the postman. And it's just this football phrase book online, and the phrases are like, the trouble with Arsenal is they think they can just walk it in. And what's the other one? Did you see that ludicrous display last night? That's the opening line. But yeah, so much judgment, and judgment and armchair criticism and things. And yeah, it's like there's definitely like a desire here within me to kind of unravel this into really plainly material terms, because when we talk about energy, I think I've definitely had people in my life that were super skeptical, who would complain that discussions about energy are referring to something that is yet to be scientifically discovered, and it's just an umbrella term for all kinds of things that are transmitted, like in tone of voice, and we do have fields of energy. I'm pretty sure that is scientifically rational. I've
seen one.
Okay,
I've seen one.
What do you mean?
Once. There's the thing where aura is what I'm talking
Oh yes,
about.
yeah.
Is that not what you're talking about?
No. Well, yeah, maybe if you're visualizing it,
Yeah.
So that's obviously, I think that's where the colors of the chakras come from. Is that when you get to some certain level of awareness, you can actually see the colors in people. Yeah. I'm not there, but you can measure brain waves, and you can measure. So there's all kinds of waves from us that you can measure. So if you've got 70,000, 80,000 people in a stadium that are emitting these waves of negativity, which actually, other examples, you can feel it when you walk into a room and an argument's just happened.
Of course you can.
It's you can feel it, and you can feel people who are nervous, and there might be lots of visual cues going on there, or tone of voice, tight throat, stuff like that. So there's lots of other stuff to pick up on, but yeah, sometimes you can just feel it. So
I did a science test about like our sixth sense. We always know when people are looking at us. Have you ever had that? Have you ever been walking down the street and you've turned up to a window and there's someone just there?
Yeah.
That's terrifying. But they actually did that. I'd have to find the source of this. But they tested this. So just someone in a room, and they just had to press a button when the person was looking at the back of their head, and it was just alarmingly accurate. Like way beyond chance.
I went on a weekend course out in the woods in Devon a few years back, and this teacher was teaching various sort of techniques for immersing oneself in nature.
Right.
And I think they had been learnt from various cultures, Native American and other sort of native cultures around the world. And one of the games we played was somebody would be blindfolded and sat on like a tree stump, and various spoons would be stuck around them, and you had to go and get a spoon, and all they were able to do was point and if they pointed at you and they successfully pointed at you, the teacher who was the referee of this game would say, right, you've got to go back. So you'd have to go back to the starting point and you'd have to make your journey again. And we were, we'd practiced various techniques of how to walk silently and stuff through nature. Yeah. So that's what we were practicing. But the person who was guarding the spoons was practicing their sixth sense.
So they were so people were slowly coming in to take a spoon.
Yes.
All right, and if they could hear them, okay, brilliant.
Yeah. So one of the guys, who was called Neo of all names, who was a young guy with just an incredibly old soul. Just he seemed so wise, but he had hearing issues, and when it came to his turn, the thing that he tried was this technique that the teacher had called it deer ears, which was simply to cup your ears, and it would sort of focus the sounds that were coming towards you, but it would close off all of the sounds behind you and to the side, so you could turn your head and direct your ears to hear a little bit more clearly. So the first time he was doing this, and he wasn't getting anybody. Like we were all sort of sneaking towards and grabbing spoons, and it was easy. And the rest of us had relied mainly on our hearing, because our hearing was fine. Second time, the facilitator said, "All right, just use your inner intuition, your sixth sense." And then he was getting us all the time, and we were still getting through, but he was getting us all the time. So the guy he was blindfolded and he had poor hearing, and he wasn't going to use his sense of smell or his sense of touch. Well, maybe he was, I don't know.
Feel the vibrations. And
yeah. But yeah, he was getting us. So I don't know what energy that is that's being sensed. How you, which of our actual sense, what we emit that we are aware of scientifically, that he was picking up on, or was it something,
I wonder if it's got anything to do with you guys being conscious of him. That almost opens up a gateway for him.
He could sense
to
the
see
fear.
You. Yeah. And I wonder if you were just completely not even looking at him but ignoring him, if you'd be able to sort of navigate that minefield that was his mind.
There was another exercise we did called predator prey.
Predator prey.
Yeah, and somebody was in the middle and everybody else lined up around in a circle. And person in the middle spun round a few times.
Yeah.
And after they were spun round, the facilitator would point to one of us, and that person would be the prey, and everybody else was neutral, and they were trees basically. So the rest of us who were trees had to sort of embody, the sense of being a tree. Okay, so yeah. however it was that you felt that you would do that, you're just being a tree. But the person who is the predator, and so the person in the middle would become prey, so they would embody prey, so they would have this sense of vulnerability about them. And the person who had been pointed at, who had become the predator, they had to embody malicious intention. And and the person in the middle would have to turn around and point who it was.
But everyone's just stood in a circle.
Everyone's just stood in a circle.
And you just have to... Right.
The person in the middle was blindfolded, of course. And they had to turn round and sense where the threat was coming from.
This is interesting.
Unfortunately, I can't remember the results.
Really interesting.
But given the other exercise, and how conclusive the results were there, that you could, that some people even that were challenged with their senses could be exceptional at picking people out.
I think we're going to play a little game quickly.
Okay.
Can you pass me one of those deck of cards from behind you?
Oh yeah. Cool.
Right. So sometimes I do this with some friends. Red.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely red. Okay. Thank you very much. It's not got a very good success rate, but right, it's very simple.
It's not a great game for radio.
It's not a good game. It's not a good game for radio at all. But we'll go through it once anyway, regardless.
Okay.
I'll sort of explain it. So what I do, I pick a card at random,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to send you with my mind. First of all, what color it is.
Okay.
It's very simple, black or red.
Yeah.
And then what suit. And then if it's a face card or a number, so a face card would be Jack, and it will include ace. Okay, so Jack to ace. And then from then, you'll pick the card, right? So I've done this with a few people. And normally, I'm pretty good at this. I can get quite close.
There's a few 50-50s in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you sort of break through,
Yeah.
it become all right. Okay, so I'm just gonna choose this card. You've seen me shuffle that, right? So, right. So first of all, I'm with my mind, right? I'm just gonna tell you, if it's red or black. Okay.
And do I answer each time?
You answer each time.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm getting red.
Okay. All right. So now we're gonna go on to what suit it is. Right? So
Okay.
it's either hearts or it's diamonds. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's diamonds.
All right. So now we're going to talk about whether it's a face card or whether it's a number card. Okay.
It's a number card.
Ooh.
Oh. So I was right for the first two.
Yeah. It's diamond,
All right.
yeah.
So it's
Just
it's a face card.
Stab it.
The thing is, though, I've got your tone of voice that I'm going on as well.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's difficult, isn't it?
All right,
but this is what I do with people as well, because I've watched lots of like Darren Brown and stuff like that.
Okay.
And just trying to do little tiny voice inflections and looks as well.
So it's a face card.
Sure.
Yeah. so I've got to guess.
You just got to pick it now.
I've just got to guess which of the diamond face cards it is. Queen.
Not bad though, eh? Not bad. All right. Okay. It's a fun game. Well, yeah. All right. Maybe not for radio, so we'll leave that.
Well, no, let's do it once more.
Once more. Shall I remain
no voice this time?
Okay. I should do it over the air and see if
I'll
someone can get it, right?
I'll narrate the feelings that are coming up for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Colour, right?
Oh, it's colour. All right.
That's where we'll start.
It's funny because I was getting a suit already.
Okay, what was the suit?
Spades.
You didn't sound sure.
Well, that's because it just feels like a really ambitious guess.
But well, let's go back. Let's go back to the start.
Spades then.
Let's just go back to the start. Do you know what? I'll change card.
Okay.
There we go. We'll go for the one underneath. Right. So we'll start with black or red.
Black.
Right. Well, they're going to put the cards away now. Well, forget this game. All right. Yeah. Never mind. Told you. Not a very good success rate.
All right.
7 of diamonds. Anyway, you can try that one at home. Right. Let me finish the book, because he's going to talk about God now. So this is still the inferiority complex here. So we were talking about how when someone strives to be superior, they become more miserable. And I can see that. I can see that because when you're trying to be more superior, you're focusing on trying to be superior at one particular thing. And if that is a struggle, then the rest of your life, I feel like, will collapse around that, almost. Especially in a comparison thing. If you're just wanting to sort of, be the best at one particular thing and it's not working, then how are you supposed to enjoy the rest of your life? Have you found that at all?
Yeah. So between the ages of, I haven't found exactly where it started, but it goes quite far. So I'd always sort of remembered it as starting around the ages of 16, 17, but I've gone back and looked at some of my early creative work and some, things like stuff in my school leaving book and whatnot. So this pattern which I'll get to, starts back at that age, which is So essentially, the trying to be superior, trying to be the best at something, which back then was music, and being very aware of jealousy and insecurity towards other people.
Right.
Having very, very grandiose visions of how my life would turn out. Being very sensitive to criticism. So extremely sensitive to criticism,
right.
which I didn't always express. And being very impatient with anybody that was part of my journey. So, for example, I was in bands, and the first band that I was in, it was actually very, very friendly and beautifully balanced. And I was the person writing the songs and pretty much dictating all the music. But I enjoyed being with my bandmates, and they were my friends. But later bands that I was in, I was often very harsh to some of the band members, and it was very much giving off this feeling of judgment, and things aren't good enough and that kind of stuff. So there was all that kind of stuff going there. And then so I got very disillusioned with life in general from college onwards. And then in my 20s, I started trying out different things. And it was always going to be, this is the thing now. This is what my career is going to be. And I'm going to get very, very good at this. And I would, go full into it. So, because I had this kind of concept about what it would take to be successful and how one needs to be in order to be successful. And it was a wide array of things. I suppose it was psychology, because I became a Samaritan when I was 19. So I was still doing music and bands and stuff like that. But I went into psychology, did Samaritans, studied counselling as well.
Why? Why did that begin?
Well, Samaritans was just it was after the end of a breakup, and I was kind of twiddling my thumbs. I wasn't at university, and I was working in Woolworths. God rest its soul. My mum just saw an advert in the local paper that they were recruiting, and I don't know, I just sort of just went for it.
Sometimes things are complete chance, aren't they? I suppose.
Yeah, but I don't know why my mum picked that out, and I don't know why I said yes. So something about it resonated with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so did that and studied counselling, and so one of the things in that time that I learnt was hypnosis, and
Is this all self-taught?
Self-taught using YouTube. Ridiculously easy to learn and do on people when you discover the people that are naturally somnambulistic. So they naturally have this tendency to fall into trance. Well. Yes, okay. Which is about 1 in 5 of the population. Wow. And you can do these susceptibility tests. You'll see most stage shows. Darren Brown, for example, before he works with one person, he'll get 10 people up on stage, or maybe 20. And he'll have them doing
the most.
Yeah, so he'll have them doing something like turning pendulums, and he'll be saying, okay, feel the force of that pendulum getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And the people that are naturally somnambulistic are the ones that the pendulum's going crazy, and everybody else he'll send back to their seats. So you can work out who is, and I still do it for fun. Like if I ever bring up hypnosis, I'll say, do you want to do a susceptibility test? And I can say to people, right, you're going to go out like a light, basically. so just be aware if there's ever a hypnotist nearby. Don't play along, because you're gonna be the one dancing like a chicken or whatever it is. Yeah. So learned hypnosis, and I was like, right, I'm going to be a stage hypnotist. and it was this big, big grand. I always had to go the whole hog, basically.
Yeah. What is it about that as well that human beings can't? Yeah, we want to just have the most crazy lives almost.
Well, I don't know if it is all human beings. I don't think
maybe it's not. Yeah,
no,
maybe it's not.
I think lots of people are very content to live
Modest lives.
modest lives with just enough money and family and this, that, and the other. And because I've noticed this a lot, if I share this story, quite a lot of people I know, they're like, no, I've never really felt that.
Wow.
So I think it's those of us who are artistic, creative, and very sensitive, and feel some sort of drive to do something with what we've got.
Feels like there's something else in there as well.
Hmm?
Because I feel the same too. I've always had this drive to want to sort of be the best at something. But yeah, with the visions of future, it's almost like you want this attention on you as well. And I wonder if that's because there's a lack of something in early childhood. If we're going to go all Freud on it. But honestly, I think just this idea of being on stage, having many eyes on you, and being sort of the center of everything, just for whatever moment it might be. I feel like the act is almost irrelevant, but it's the situation you find yourself in that's important. Not saying you specifically, but in general, I think maybe if they're the kind of things that people are seeking, it's because I find that actually, thinking about sort of my childhood, it might be because not necessarily didn't get the enough attention, but the attention wasn't what it could or should have been. Perhaps.
Yes, I think there's elements there of. So in my own journey, it's been not being able to express who I really am.
Right.
So, going Freudian on it, if you were not able to express who you really are, then the ultimate expression of that would be to get up on stage and be who you are.
This is who I am.
Yeah.
Right.
So it would be a grand announcement because you've been deprived of the daily announcement of that all of your life.
But then it's also you're searching the affirmation, because you can't just accept it yourself. You have to show others this is who I am as well, rather than just being sort of stood there in the mirror and be like, this is who I am. There's this want to scream it and be heard.
I think if it's the ego and sort of the shadow manifesting, then yes, because if you've not taken that authority of yourself to have faith that you can give yourself the attention that you deserve, then yes, you seek it from others, which I did fell victim to that for many years, right. Because along with learning these different things, I would tell everybody about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think there's also something there about, I wouldn't want to belittle the journey by saying it's as simple as you didn't get enough attention.
No, of course.
Because there's also something there about the responsibility of what it is that you have. And I think maybe I would say that it's perhaps more the artistic types, because art is concerned with truth.
Right.
And one of the ultimate so if you've not been able to be true to who you are, you want to express that truth, and then that ties up with artistic expression as well. Expressing broader truth, not just the truth of who you are, but the truth of who we are, the truth of the way things are. So I think some of the grandiosity can emerge from that sense of the responsibility you have of I'm somebody that seeks to explore and share truth, and that's something that is greatly needed.
And I wonder if it's almost a catch up as well, because you've not had it for so long. You want to be like, well, I'm catching up, so I want to scream and shout and be like, I'm here and I'm here now. Yeah, there's many different ways to look at it. But you say you that was a pattern that you had. So is that something that sort of you've grown out of, or decided that wasn't sort of positive for you, or?
I would say that yes, I've been growing out of it for the last few years, and some of the last ways that had manifested certain attachments to people or situations have sort of run their course, and I'm more in a sort of a wilderness now of sort of recognizing that to form a concept of oneself isn't very helpful. You've got to see what emerges naturally.
Right.
So you mentioned earlier on situations that start off feeling good,
Yeah,
and then don't continue to feel good. So I think, let's say taking the hypnosis as an example, the point at which it stopped feeling good is when I put all that responsibility on myself of this is what it needs to be. This is how I'm going to represent myself in the world. And I think that was quite a repeating pattern, actually, was to be curious about something, learn it, enjoy it, play with it, and then suddenly dump all this responsibility on it of you know.
So as soon as you take control of it, it dies.
It's as soon as you attach your identity to it.
Right. Ownership.
Yeah, because it was fun. It was fun learning it. It was fun practicing and playing with it. And I hypnotized two friends, and one of them, it worked like a charm, you know, and it was like having a superpower. Yeah, and it's yeah, for me, the pattern in my life was like, okay, I don't know. It could be go back to that attention thing of recognizing, oh, look, this is how I can distinguish myself from other people.
Yeah.
And then using that as a weapon, and it becomes the reason that I'm doing it changes rather than curiosity. So I think that curiosity is what is best to focus on. Be curious about something, and don't try and or as much as you can avoid putting it into a concept of what you think, how you think that curiosity should form.
It's difficult to remain curious about a particular thing, though, I think. Music, on the other hand, I think that's one thing you can continue being curious about. And I really love my love for music, the way that continually develops. Because there's always more music. There's always new stuff to sort of listen to, and I'm always curious about how people are using different instruments. But when it comes to sort of endeavours that we embark on, it's always, like I said before, it's just sort of that idea of something, but then once that idea becomes a bit of reality, you stop being curious about it.
What's it? Give me an example.
So like me writing the book that I'm doing at the moment, you get so curious about so much research. So I'm doing all the research, and it's that's so exciting. And then I have to sort of bring it all back and try and put it into something coherent that people would want to read. And then that at that point it becomes a bit of a slog, and I get more excited about the research and of what this could mean, rather than putting in the hard work to do it. Because I'm not curious. Well, I am curious about how the book's going to turn out, massively, but then I also feel a sense of responsibility because I'm the person who's doing it. I think remaining curious about something, like with the spiritual journey as well. Like as soon as I started picking up these books, right at the very start, you're so incredibly curious because everything is brand new. But then you start looking at other books and be like, oh, well, I've read something similar like that before. I'm not like curious anymore. I'm still curious about the journey, but I feel like I've ticked so many boxes. You sort of start scratching your head thinking, well, what's next? How do I pursue this curiosity? Because curiosity is probably one of the most, if not the most powerful emotions that we can have, I think.
It might be that the curiosity has changed forms, or that what you thought you were curious about wasn't quite the thing. It was actually a tiny nuance of that thing. So lately I've been practicing moving away from thinking about career paths, or any kind of continuity, I suppose, and just being like, what am I curious about in really simple terms. So, for example, I know that I'm enchanted by reverb and by the sound of locations. So, and that's what's been driving the idea for the concert in the tunnel that I'm putting on, is how that tunnel sounds. And I can trace this back to early memories. Like one of my earliest memories was swimming in a pool in my hometown of Farnborough, and playing on the speaker system is Boyzone "Love Me for a Reason," which I can't remember exactly when it came out, but that dates it. But the reason I remember it is because I was going under the water, and I remember how it echoed through the water.
Right, yeah.
So that's very specific. Being fascinated by reverb. With anything, with the hypnosis, I think with the hypnosis I was fascinated by that sense of kind of mysticism. This sense that you can hijack somebody's mind, and then they can believe in the things that you're doing. So, for example, somebody else might have been curious about. So when I say hijack somebody's mind, it wasn't, although it did give me a sense of power, that's not what drove me. But maybe somebody else is curious to be in control of people or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So although hypnosis was the thing that I was interested in, it was the finer nuances of that I was curious about. Although music is the thing that I practice, it's reverb is one of the nuances that I'm interested in, and recognizing that saying things like I'm interested in music, or I want to be a composer. These are abstractions that are several layers up from the actual sensory experiences that make you curious. So I think in pursuing something and seeing how it changes, you've got to recognize these finer nuances of curiosity, and are you still honoring them?
I think it's about asking why. I think it's such a good question. So you like music, why? And then again, it's just like sort of chipping down on that layer. Then, well, I like this particular instrument. Well, why? Well, I like the sound it makes. Well, why? Because it gives me this particular feeling. Why do you think it does that? But yeah, it's just, you can keep going, absolutely. And I think that's something we should all practice a lot more of, definitely.
Yeah, and it might go back to particular memories.
Yeah.
The first time you heard that instrument and what you were feeling and thinking there.
So I had this discussion with my younger brother with music, because he's a photographer as well. He's not very happy with because he just does like nightclub stuff on the weekends. He's not really enjoying that so much. And he was at mine about a month or so ago, and there's this guy that he knows that's a musician, but my brother is just really passionate. He's just sort of saying he's not doing enough. He's not getting himself out there enough, or his music is like he should be doing this and that. There's like, but you're saying these things because you're passionate about it. Why are you not pursuing something like this? Why don't you just manage this guy? Why don't you approach him and say, look, I think you should be really big. I want to just get you some gigs and stuff like that. It's like, because I find you should always listen when people are really passionate about something, and always advise them to sort of seek that and pursue that however they might be able to, because you'll often have people be like, oh yeah, but I don't know what that means, or I don't know how people get into work like that. Well, find out, just do something, whatever it might be. But it was really nice to see how passionate he was, just sort of saying, yeah, I think he should sort of change this about his music. I don't know I don't like what he's done with that track. I think he should do something like this. So, it was like, it goes back to that thing where you were saying that if you enjoy the work, it doesn't feel like hard work or anything like that. And I find if you're doing stuff like that in your free time, that's something you should be pursuing. And I feel like that's something every human being does that doesn't necessarily pursue those things. Just like what we're doing right now, we're not getting paid to do this, but this is something that I really want to do. And same with all the interviews that I did with all the Bristol creatives. I think I've told you I did a project a couple of years ago with, again, doing interviews with people who live in Bristol, and that was very much so more about like spirituality and stuff like that. I just am always recording and wanting to talk to people. So why am I not just doing that? Why are we not doing the things that we love and enjoy, instead of just sort of instantly shutting things down because it doesn't seem easy, or it doesn't seem straightforward? Like, how can you turn something that's just a passion into paid work? That's the difficult part, I think, for lots of people. That's why I started doing the Bristol Creatives Project, in wanting to find out how people pursue their careers. And I feel like I've learned a lot, definitely, but I'm still not earning money. But it's definitely something I want to be doing.
There's a great video I saw by Elliot Hulse the other day on YouTube.
Name rings a bell.
He's quite a good YouTube personality, and I think it was titled How to Create a Non-Job.
Yeah.
I think that was what it was called. And it was a simple process, which was something like find what you love, share it. And then I think there was a third step, but I think it was something like accept money, or accept offers, or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, that was simply it. So it works if you're a content creator, because you can put stuff out on YouTube or wherever it is, and then you can embed adverts in that and make an income from the adverts. Yeah. Or you can make a course and you can sell the course through Facebook ads or whatever.
I'm sick of seeing those courses on Facebook ads.
So it's funny you say that, because lots of other people don't get them.
Yeah, I know they don't.
It's because of our interests that we get them. Yeah.
Because I was doing some like digital marketing and stuff for a few friends, and now I just get not. And I haven't done any of that stuff for months now, but I still just get, are you a content creator? Blah blah blah. See people just selling, and it's yeah.
I get loads of stuff on coaching at the moment. Loads
of
of
you do,
yeah. And I've also started I've got stuff that is like, haven't clicked anything. I've had conversations with people, but I haven't clicked anything. So it's like, right, you're obviously listening.
Yeah. I wonder what's going to come up after this. This conversation.
Welcome back to part 2.
I hope this isn't like
half shorter part.
Yeah, the significantly shorter part indeed. The truth about you is this: you are not inferior, you are not superior, you are simply you. You, as a personality, are not in competition with any other personality simply because there is not another person on the face of the earth like you, or in your particular class. You are an individual, you are unique. You are not like any other person and can never become like any other person. You are not supposed to be like any other person, and no other person is supposed to be like you. God did not create a standard person and in some way label that person by saying, this is it. He made every human being individual and unique, just as he made every snowflake individual and unique. God created short people and tall people, large people and small people, skinny people and fat people, that one's debatable, black, yellow, red and white people. He has never indicated any preference for anyone's size, shape or colour. Abraham Lincoln once said, God must have loved the common people, for he made so many of them. He was wrong. There is no common man, no standardised common pattern. He would have been nearer the truth had he said, God must have loved uncommon people, for he made so many of them. An inferiority complex and its accompanying deterioration in performance can be made to order in the psychological laboratory. All you need to do is set up a norm or average, then convince your subject he does not measure up. Interesting. A psychologist wanted to find out how feelings of inferiority affected ability to solve problems. He gave his students a set of routine tests. but then he solemnly announced that the average person could complete the test in about 1/5 of the time it would really take. When in the course of the test, a bell would ring, indicating that the average man's time was up. Some of the brightest subjects became jittery and incompetent indeed, thinking themselves to be morons. Stop measuring yourself against their standards. You are not them and can never measure up. Neither can they measure up to yours, nor should they. Once you see this simple, rather self-evident truth, accept it and believe it, your inferior feelings will vanish. Dr. Norton L. Williams, a psychiatrist addressing a medical convention, said recently that modern man's anxiety and insecurity stem from a lack of self-realization, and that inner security can only be found in finding oneself an individuality, uniqueness, and distinctiveness that is akin to the idea of being created in the image of God.
I find it fascinating that a book called Psycho-Cybernetics talks about God so much. It's because it's first impressions, but it comes across as a technical psychological book.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know it does. It's a very strange title when I picked it up. So what he really means, he does go into a little bit more detail about that. He sort of says, this is where the law of attraction thing sort of comes into it, because he discusses how our minds work as like targeted missiles. So they're aimed at exactly what we're thinking at, whether that's positive or negative, and it's bringing about that into our lives. And but the second we start thinking about something else, the missile's off course. It's thinking about those other things that we're thinking about too. So it's about coming back to where we are. So he's just sort of saying it's almost like our minds are just sort of floating through sort of space and time, but we're deciding what we look at, and what we look at is what we head towards. So that's where the cybernetic part of it comes into it, is that we're just sort of honing in this this missile that is happening regardless of whether we're conscious of it or not. It is constantly happening, and it's based on our thoughts.
So much. I have come to look at life increasingly more deterministically, and I would say that I enjoy these days looking at it deterministically, because it ties together both the spiritual and the scientific. So in purely scientific rational terms, it's hard not to see life as deterministic, because everything is reacting to everything else. And although there's the number of events and calculations that are going on is so massive that there's no hope that we could ever predict what's going on.
But if it could be, then
you could. Yeah. So if you were able to plot all of the data in the entire universe into a computer, you'd be able to track its course. Perhaps maybe someone who is in the field might argue with that. So that's why there's this illusion of free will, of making choices, etc. But you given the same set of circumstances, you will always make that choice because it is the best choice to make with the information that you have available.
Right. Yeah.
So flip that into spiritual terms. You're talking about fate and destiny. Although what those things sort of suppose is that you can. Usually when fate and destiny is discussed, there is this implication that one might be able to know one's destiny, one's ultimate outcome. But if you're talking in deterministic terms, then given all the calculations at any one time, you would be able to say you're going in this direction. Now, in terms of the missile and the trajectory, bringing in emotional blocks to it. So life's natural state is flow and expansion. And life will always go the path of least resistance. It will always, water always flows around obstacles. What's another example? I don't know, everything kind of yields and ebbs and flows and that kind of thing. So if you were completely unobstructed and unblocked, the energy of life would simply flow through the filters that make up you. Those filters are your values, your interests, and your talents, all of that kind of thing. So speaking very, very narrowly, if you love music, let's say that was the only thing that you loved, all of the energy would flow in the direction of music. You wouldn't have to do anything. That's your value. And sorry, especially if your talent is there as well, you would flow in the direction of being an instrumentalist. If you love music, but your talent is in numbers, you would flow in the direction of being an accountant in the music industry.
Right.
If you're, or let's take it in another direction. Let's say, let's keep some of the elements. You love music, but you've got an engineering mindset. You flow into creating instruments, technology. You love music and you love performing, you become a performer. You love music, but you love creating, you become a creator of music, and so on and so forth. The problem with the missile trajectory is that is interfering with that natural course. So I'm not good enough limits you. Sense of I'm not good enough limits you. I might fail limits you. All it does is it stops you going in the natural direction that you're meant to go in. And when I say meant to go in, I mean the path of least resistance, because all of your values, talents, and enjoyment is lining up in that direction. So that's what it means to be aligned, is to allow your energy to flow where your greatest chance of success is in all areas of your life, financially, emotionally, all manner of fulfillment.
Yeah.
So that's where I've kind of got to on this subject is like looking at it deterministically and looking at what would naturally happen if I was completely unlimited. And it's like, okay, so if I'm not actually making decisions, if decisions are making me, as it were, and I'm just a calculator that's looking at the lay of the land and saying this is the decision to go, I would naturally be pushed in the direction of where my talents and my knowledge and everything else is.
So what do those do who are not sure exactly what their talents are, if their talents are abstract, like mine, for instance? Because there's not this... It's very difficult for me to even visualize what I should be doing with what I have. Nor is there anything or anyone I feel like I should specifically be approaching or sort of doing with my time.
So I'd say just be curious.
Because being curious. I'm dipping in and out of things.
That's it. So, like, you're curious about this.
Yeah.
That X, not necessarily this podcast, but let's take the podcast.
Yeah.
Curious about podcast, or you're curious about conversations. So podcast is an abstraction layer.
Yeah.
So this isn't I want to be a podcast host. This is I like to have conversations about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're curious about it. You try it out once. Do you enjoy it? You do it again. Do you enjoy it? You do it again. And after you've done it 10 times, you're pretty good at it.
Right.
And that's whether one says, so in this kind of thing, it might be hard to talk about talent in terms of the abstracts of music, art, etc., etc. Maybe your talent is asking great questions. Right. Maybe your talent is framing great debates.
Yeah. So I'm always curious how I react to when people make statements. That's always really interesting.
Oh, right. So how did you react?
Well, the second thing you just said there.
Framing debates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that triggers something much deeper in me rather than just having good conversations. I want people to discuss.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really aiming for. It's not just about people listening and thinking, okay, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I want people to go and be like, oh, I heard this thing and this is what I think about it.
Yeah.
I want to create a ripple. That's what I'm aiming for more than anything. I want to just,
Ripple of?
Conversation, debate, like just keep people questioning things. That's what my true aim is people to question the things that they do and why they do them, or the way that they live their life. Definitely, because these are questions that I have for myself all the time. And I found myself just quite recently, like the last conversation we had was so different from our first, because I was not in line with anything at all, and I was facing so much resistance from within, from many different levels, and I could feel it. I couldn't even thoroughly enjoy our conversation at all, because it's just I feel so tense about stuff. Whereas now I feel like I'm sort of going a little bit further up, and I quit my job, and all of these things suddenly start happening. But it's so difficult, and I'm sure people listening would totally agree, to have faith, to just be able to quit your job and think things will be all right.
All right, so let's talk about the cues. Let's talk about some of the cues from the universe.
Right.
Talking about the way the little confirmations that happen of you're going the right way. It's these little instances that have always sustained my interest in law of attraction. When my rational mind has been saying, this is a load of nonsense, or I've had nobody in my life that has really been that partial to it or that interested in the way that I am. So one of those things is the recurring numbers, which I call God times, which I had a lot in my teens. Okay. And it's like 11, 11, 12, 34, 1, 2, 3, 4.
They're both my main ones as well.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to that anymore.
Okay. So I go through phases with it.
Right.
1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, etc., etc.
Yeah.
If you go through the entire 24-hour clock, I think it's about 1 in 50 chance that you get one of these numbers come up. And so it's not ridiculously high. It's not lottery probability, but it's not low probability is lottery. It's also not that high. It's not 50-50 or anything like that. In fact, it's almost as likely as getting the card right from the
absolutely.
pack of cards.
And that seems much more ridiculous, actually, when you think about it.
We failed spectacularly.
My argument, just before you carry on, argument to it is the body clock.
Yeah.
The body clock knowing what the time is, because it's ticking away at all times. The amount of time I would set an alarm for 7 o'clock in the morning, but my body would wake up at 6:59, like constantly. It's stuff like that made me doubt this number thing more than anything. Just knowing that my body knew exactly what the time was, even when I'm completely unconscious.
What I think is good about it is to just think about it creatively.
Yeah.
And so what I will talk about is the times where it feels. Actually, what I will put it all under is the times where it feels meaningful.
Okay.
Because if it feels meaningful, it doesn't matter what the explanation is.
I couldn't agree more.
It's something you can take. So I take the same. I've been doing a lot of dream interpretation recently, and by the same method, you're not looking for the truth. You're looking for a truth.
Right.
And so there are possibly lots of times where we see these, I'll own this, where I see these numbers and I don't think anything of it. And I do occasionally catch myself seeing these numbers and there's nothing special about it. But it's those times where I've been thinking about something very significant and then I see these numbers and this feeling comes over me. And the feeling is a kind of confirmation. Yeah. And it was when I was a teenager and more so recently. And this example happened yesterday where I was coming home and there was I suppose I would call her a girl begging for money. She was very young at the side of the road. And she asked for change, and I didn't have any change, so I just sort of walked on, and I got to the junction just a bit beyond, and I was like, this isn't good enough for me. I'm going to go back and talk to her. I'm going to offer it. Tesco's was nearby. I was like, shall I offer something to get her something? So I went back and I said, do you want anything from Tesco's? And she was like, I'm craving grapes. And I was like, is that all grapes? And she was like, I'm pregnant and I've got a craving for grapes. And so I pressed her. She was really thin. So I pressed her to ask me for something more substantial, and she only came up with more sweet things. So I went and got her these things. And came back and sat with her and chatted with her for a little while. And and we had a nice little chat for quite a while, and it wasn't actually that uncomfortable. Sometimes I sit down with someone homeless and I'm there because I felt bad and I wanted to be with them, but I also want to get away as quickly as possible because I feel so uncomfortable with the situation. And this was terrible, the reality of her being on the streets pregnant, and apparently until you're 21 weeks pregnant, you're not priority for housing because there's low risk of you going into labour, which is horrendous. That's what she said anyway. So sat with her for a while, and she needed 17 quid to get into the hostel that evening. While we were chatting, someone came along and gave her £3, and she had pennies before that. And I've noticed that when I sit down with homeless people, often people come up and give money, and I think it's a social proof element. They see that somebody in inverted commas who appears normal is talking to this person, therefore they must be fine and normal, and I will help them. So person comes along, gives £3. I was reluctant to give money. I just didn't really feel like I was able to at this time. But I sat with her for a while. And just after a little while, I was like, all right, I'm going to go and get some money out for you. And I gave her £10, which wasn't all that she needed, but it was a substantial amount, and it was what I felt comfortable with. So I went and got her the money and came back and chatted, and I walked away. And so I was walking away, and I was like, kind of flippantly, I said to the universe, I was like, all right, can I have £10, please? I've just given £10 away. Can I have £10?
Can I have it back?
Yeah. And then I thought to myself, well, why am I even stopping at £10? Just ask for more money. I was like, all right, can I have some more money, please? Shortly after that, an invoice got paid. The invoice I was anticipating would get paid soon. The invoice was for a couple of £100. Great, the invoice came through, and it was like 10 minutes later. The time that the invoice came through was 3:33.
Yeah, okay.
It's when that happens, it was like, and it usually comes with this kind of, it's never usually so mystical that you can't explain it. It's like you're never, or in my experience, I'm never fed something that is so mystical that suddenly I'm a person of unbreakable faith.
I find sometimes when stuff like that happens, it's a roll your eye moment.
Yeah.
It's like, again.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that happens. The other thing that I've been having lately is with this tunnel concert. That just keeps getting it's not really weird yet, but I'm noticing how a chain of synchronicities have fed into this, and I keep spotting more and more that I'd forgotten about. So and this is a really great example, I think, of this sense of things just flowing, not thinking about it. This is an idea that came to me, and I was curious about it, and I've followed it, and it's happened by letting go of all of the previous concepts I had of myself, because putting on a concert has not been something that's been at the forefront of my mind, although I've put on events in the past, but they were always a side hustle. It wasn't the main thing. So the whole story starts, I suppose, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where I was occasionally thinking I would like to play saxophone. And it was a thought that just kept coming back to me. It just kept coming back to me, I should play saxophone. When I moved to Bristol, and I moved into this place, shortly after arriving here, I discovered there was a saxophone shop just around the corner, 5 minutes around the corner. I walked past there one day. They were offering a free sax lesson. And I didn't have really any money at the time. And I was like, great, all right, I'll do this sax lesson. Then it turned out that you could rent the saxophone. You didn't have to buy it. You could rent it. It was 15 quid a month. And I was like, well, that's doable.
That's a bargain.
No problem. Yeah. And for the first year, for the first 3 months, the entire 15 quid goes towards credit for buying one. And then after that, for the rest of the first year, half of that, 750, yes, goes towards buying it. So you work, after a year, you've worked up a credit of 120 quid for anything in the shop. But this particular saxophone was 350 quid.
What an amazing system.
So it's great.
Yeah, it's a great system.
So played saxophone for a little while. And the next idea that came to me was about this tunnel, Staple Hill Tunnel on the Bristol to Bath railway path, which I had been through once on a cycle to Bath some time ago. And I just loved it. I loved how long it was and how atmospheric it was and everything about it, like the way it sounded, but also the temperature change in there and stuff like that, and the sound of the water droplets and things, because even though it was dry outside, there was some water leaking through somewhere. So this idea that I could go and play saxophone came up for me, but I was very sensitive about, well, it's a long tunnel. I don't want to go up and play at the rush hour and be that obnoxious guy on the saxophone that people can't escape from because they're going to go through this tunnel for, I don't know how long it is. It's probably about a third or 2/3 of a mile anyway.
It's a hell of a long tunnel.
It's a long tunnel. Yeah, to walk it takes 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah.
There's a lighting in there as well, is there?
There is lighting, yeah, which I hadn't, I'd remembered it was dark. I thought it was just lights at either end. So I was going to take up some fairy lights, and I was going to play, I wasn't going to go up there and play Careless Whisper or whatever it is. I was going to go up there and play something that was atmospheric and that fitted, that wasn't obnoxious, that brought the place to life. And yeah, the first thought was, I better not go up and do it in the rush hour. And then I thought, that's exactly when I should go up and do it. As a matter of challenge for me, because I hadn't been playing sax. I've only been playing sax 4 or 5 months. So I cycled up there. On the way up there, someone's cycling behind me and they say, is that a saxophone? I say, yes, it is. And we start chatting. And I was like, yeah, I've only been playing a few months, but I think I'm doing pretty well, having played other instruments, etc. And I was like, well, do you want to hear me play? And he was like, yeah, I'll stop. So he cycles up with me to the middle of the tunnel. We park up our bikes. And he's listening, and he was like, "That's really great. I need a saxophonist for my wedding. Can I take your card?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay. When's your wedding?" He was like, "May the 11th. That's my birthday." So that's weird. I'm cycling up, and someone needs a saxophonist for their wedding, and it's on my birthday. Now, it's after May the 11th now. That call never came, which is fine because I ended up taking the saxophone back because I wasn't really playing it. But it felt like a reward. It felt like I had the courage to get on my bike and cycle there. I'd felt this intense pull to go and do it, and I had the courage to follow it. And then it was just like, here you go, here's a really weird synchronicity.
You are worthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like that, but that's kind of, I suppose that's what was going on. You're worthy. So I play there, and I play it, and then I play again, and I make a bit of money, and people stop and film me, and there's lots of confirmation that people were enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then a few months pass, and I don't know when, but the idea of I should put on a concert in there comes to mind. And running concurrently with that is I'm working with a music mentor, and I'm developing a string quartet. And it's like the most most sort of articulate, complex, nuanced piece that I've ever written, I would say. And I eventually share this idea with my mentor that I should put on this concert, and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, I know what the first step is. I need to make the calls to the council and find out who's in charge of that tunnel and whether this is acceptable. So I have the courage. I work up the courage to make the calls, and finally get through to Sustrans, who manage the cycle path, charity that manages the cycle path, and phone them up, and they say, no, sorry, I sent them an email, and they message back, and they say, it's funny you should contact us. This year is the 40th anniversary of the creation of this cycle path, and we've been looking at events that we'll put on, and we've got a meeting in the middle of the month. Leave it with us. We'll get back to you. So I wait till the middle of last month, and I drop them a line, and I follow up, and the director of the charity gets back and says, yes, we love this. We'd like to do this. Phoned him up the other day, and he was like, yeah, it's so weird you got in touch, because we've been thinking about putting a concert on in that tunnel ever since one of our staff saw someone playing the saxophone there.
No way. And that was you?
Yeah, I think it was me.
That's incredible. So
somehow yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Now look, to ground it, they also said that they'd seen a cellist play there as well. So
all right, let's not get carried away.
Yeah. But it was.
Oh, cello as well. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So and they've got. I told them how much I think it will cost, and they've got. It sounds like a third to a half of the funding already set aside for it.
Wow.
They've just been waiting for the right person to get in touch.
Wow. So when's the event?
October the 5th.
October the 5th. Okay.
So we're still not at the stage of can it be fully funded, and I've got some further inquiries to make and things, but I'm too far in now. The momentum has unfolded. I'm not backing out of it. So I just think it's a fascinating sequence of events. There's lots of weird synchronicities in there. Possibly many of them you can rationalize, but
where's the fun in rationalizing?
Where's the fun? And also it's just like, well, but then contrast that with things that I thought I wanted to do, where none of that stuff happened.
Yeah.
None of the synchronicities happened, and it wasn't easy, because it has been easy. The hardest part has been facing the fear. And as soon as I faced, like when I made the decision to cycle up there and play in there, the hardest part was the hour where I was ruminating whether or not I was going to do it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got on the bike and cycled up there, that was fine. I'd made the decision. I was relieved. So it was this sense of, this momentum building behind an idea, and all I had to do was allow it to move in the direction it wanted to move. And the most, just the logical steps come to mind. And every time I've followed a logical step, I've been greeted with welcomes and affirmations and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just fascinating. And that's why I think of this stuff, law of attraction, more in terms of lately as a passive process rather than an active process.
Right.
Because I was curious about it. I have a genuine love for that tunnel that I'm curious about and I'm following. But it was not on the radar of what I thought I was pursuing, of what my vision of success was. And now my vision of success is changing, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, so yeah, I'm going to be less rigid in my vision of myself, and I'm going to see what vision emerges by following my curiosity.
Yeah, just letting that go. Yeah, that vision that we hold. Because I felt like that when I was on my wave a few months ago. All of a sudden I was doing interviews for Photography Mag online. I thought, well, where did this come from? And it's sometimes things materialize in ways that you don't expect. So I just wanted some tips from this guy, Harry, who I just think he's a brilliant writer. It wasn't really about the interviews that he'd done. It was just about how I just felt his writing was just really concise and intelligent. And I really appreciated that. So I just sent him an email saying, look, I really like your writing. It's something I want to be getting into myself. Have you got any tips? And a little while later, he sort of got back to me with this long list. He's sort of explaining, he's still learning it. He's really enjoying it. And a big thanks, for me sending him the email, just sort of giving him that affirmation, definitely. And then just at the end of it, it was like, look, if you're interested, I can throw an interview your way for the mag online. And I just thought that is not what I expected at all. And then since that, I've done a couple of pieces for them, and I'm sure I'll do more for them in the future. But then it's just those things that sort of start happening. Then that ties in with stuff like this. We're sat here having a conversation, and we've had interviews before, and I've been doing interviews elsewhere. I didn't even really. That was the first marriage of photography and writing combined. And now I've sort of set up my website. I've got business cards that literally say my name, photography and writer. And it's like, right, well, that's who I am now. That's part of my life. And things seem to be happening that are drawing this in. And now I'm getting a piece published in Bristol 24/7. And that is an interview with my photography. But, if you'd asked me this 6 months ago, I would have been like, well, I'm not a writer. I know I've been writing my book, but I don't just do articles or interviews or anything like that. I don't mind the conversation, and I'll transcribe it, but it was never really about that. That was more to just sort of listen back on. But yeah, I guess people or something out there wants me to get my words out there, or just wants me to have these conversations out there, which is why I'm doing this, which is why it's really interesting me going out to the Czech Republic, because I don't think we'd be doing this right now if it wasn't for my good friend Kirkup. But then it's like you get inspiration from different places. So the reason why that happened is he does these big walks in his local city out in the wilderness. It's called rucking. So you'll take a backpack and then you'll take additional weight. So he'll have 15, 20 kilos of just additional weight that he carries through. And so he'd been posting on Facebook his achievements. He'd do, I think I saw a couple with just 70 odd kilometers in one day with additional weight. And he'd take pictures of just sort of the places that he'd been and stuff, and it all looked amazing. And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of this guy. I want to go do one with him. And so I sent him a message. At first, I think he thought I was kidding. Then we started discussing it more, and then we planned, look, I'll come out in September, so it's not too hot. And then he was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll have a little, but I might be working then, so it's not great. And then I just sort of sat and thought, well, why don't I just go now? What am I actually waiting for? So I looked at flights. Flights in 3 weeks were 50 odd quid or something like that. So I just sort of said, are you free this weekend? And he said, yeah. I booked my flights. And then we just got out there and did 103 kilometers over 3 days. One of them was a marathon, but we just had so much time to talk just about everything, just about life. This was my intention when I first went out there was to sort of do a bit of a mini podcast out there with him. That never happened because it was exhausting. What we were doing, there was no time for that.
Just be wheezing
constantly.
constantly.
It was so funny because like there are some videos. We were so stupid. So on the Saturday, so we started walking on the Saturday morning, and it was a really beautiful walk. We ended up going swimming in a dam, and then we got to this little town. We sort of found a space that we're going to camp. But first of all, we were going to go get some food. But Jakub had reminded me that it was a Czech public holiday on this Saturday. So he said things might be closed. So we went to one pub that was closed, and it said, we close at 4 p.m. today. And I thought, this would never happen in England. It's a pub on a Saturday evening, and it's closed. This is crazy. And then we went to another restaurant, and we went up the stairs, and there was a gentleman there, and I thought, oh, thank God. We sat down, ordered some beers, and then Jakub had said something, and I heard the word steak. And then I could just sort of tell by what this guy was saying, it was bad news. There was no steak. And then we sort of carried on for a bit, and then the beers came, and I sort of said to Jakub, are they bringing menus? He's like, no. The restaurant's closed. I thought they just didn't have steak, but it turns out the whole restaurant was closed. And so then we just ended up having like protein cookies for dinner. It was very depressing. And then we also didn't have a tent. Or anything to cover, and the nights were quite cold, so I'm there, both of us just in our sleeping bags out in the open, and behind us was a cage full of female pheasants, and periodically throughout the night they'd all try to escape at once. It was really interesting. They'd all fly into the chicken wire,
wow,
all in one big sweep, and it would last like 3 minutes of all this flap, and then they'd just sort of calm down, and then a couple of hours later they'd do it again. But my point is that we sort of discussed the whole podcast thing, and we sort of realised it wasn't going to be an idea. But throughout our walk, we were talking about other podcasts that we'd listened to, books that we'd read, and it was from that conversation he sort of said, I really liked how you described that book. That's something you should sort of do more of. And then when I came back, we met last time. We sort of had that discussion, and then just a couple of weeks later, then we're sort of doing this now. But it's just that moment of inspiration, like seeing him inspire me by something he was doing. That is where this has come from. If I sort of reel that back, it's just him. And we've been speaking recently, and he's thanked me for the walk that we did, because when we were out there, I would start running up hills. I'd think, I'm not walking up this hill. I'm just going to run up it and get it over with. And after the walk, he was like, I didn't expect that to work as well as it did. Like, the running really helps, even with all this weight. And we were running down hills too. Now he's planning on doing like much faster walks. So it's been this beautiful exchange almost. Like, I've given him something, and he's given me something, and now we're both pursuing that. Because after we finished our 3-day walk, he was like, I don't think I'm going to walk for another couple of months. I'm just going to give it a rest. Like, I'm going to let my feet heal. But just a couple of days later, he was like, look, I've been thinking, I'm going to get out there and do some more. And thank you so much for showing me a different way of doing something. Because that's not something I do, but I used to do athletics when I was younger. And when you see a hill, the quicker you get it over with, in my eyes, the better. It doesn't matter if you struggle, just run up it. So he's taken that, and then I've sort of taken his encouragement to get back and start recording some conversations. Which is it's just really nice when someone says, I like having conversations with you because I feel like we're learning something. And I just definitely believe that is something that should be shared. So the more people we talk to, the better, I think. I'm just sick of having really boring formalities like in conversations and stuff like that. It needs to be... I just love stories like that. Just there's just different things to learn from different people, and you don't know what that conversation is changing at that time. That's what I like. I'm going to go do this thing, and something's going to come out of it that you don't expect. Just like you in that tunnel doing that saxophone, and then someone saying, we've been thinking about this because of what we saw. Even though there may be the cello involved as well, just a little part of that is sending ripples in just many different directions, and you can never be aware of the change that you're making. Also, you might have had someone sort of cycle through that tunnel, you might have been playing something and they'll be like, do you know what, I've been meaning to do this particular thing with this particular instrument, and God knows what kind of a life-changing event that might have been for them that you'll never know. They're the things that I really love from life.
It makes me think of a theme. I don't know how much time this is going to add to the podcast, but something I've been noticing. How are you doing for time?
I've got about 10 minutes, honestly. Maybe
we should wrap it up then.
Shall we? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How do we wrap this up?
Well, this has been delightful.
Oh God, we talk for so long. It's so strange.
Well,
we should do a 24-hour podcast.
What I could do is tease the theme, which is this notion of looking at life in an additive rather than sort of subtractive kind of way.
Okay.
So, creative thought is taking two things and looking what can I make of them, basically.
Chemistry, alchemy.
What would I call it? Well, I would agree with it as chemistry, but there's a phrase that I sometimes use called zero-sum game. You aware of that one? Mm-hmm. Okay, so a zero-sum game is where there can only be one winner.
Okay,
I believe. So it can be either or, but it can't be both.
Okay.
And this is bringing so many things together. So I used to look at the different threads of my life, and I thought that I had to choose. Am I going to be a composer? Am I going to be in psychology in some way? Am I going to be, I can't even remember all the different, events creator or something like that. And a real light bulb went off the day that I realized, maybe these are good for each other rather than in competition with each other.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about inspiring Jakob and vice versa, and going about your day, inspiring and being inspired, I think that every day, our entire day, is a creative opportunity of like, what can I do? That's just caught my eye. That makes me think of this. That makes me feel this. I wonder why that's relevant. What does that say about me? What shall I do with that information? Rather than going about our day focused in our heads thinking, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. When you're in that creative space, going moment to moment, all kinds of stuff starts coming to you and light bulbs going off. And you can apply that to your dreams, you can apply that to journaling, you can apply that to literally walking down the street. And I'm learning that more and more at the moment, like how much fun there is to be had by smashing bits of your experience together. Which I'd love to, by the time we next talk, the rate that I'm seeing that exponentially expand in my life.
Yeah.
By the time we next talk, I'd probably have loads to contribute on that matter.
Okay. I'm holding back.
I'm
not going to start this now, but definitely.
Yeah.
Every moment's an opportunity. Absolutely.